Hello, today I'm your host of In the Trenches. This is Pete Tredwell of Strike First Properties, and we're here to talk today about wholetailing, or what I like to call prehabbing. This is an investment strategy that's becoming more and more popular. It's one of my favorite strategies, and we're going to tell you a little bit about how you can make money and how this is definitely a strategy to keep in your tool belt at all times. Now, first of all, what is prehabbing wholetailing? Well, the words prehabbing wholetailing, they come from a combination. Prehabbing is kind of pre, as in before, or rehab, because you're not really doing the full rehab. You're doing a little bit of work before you rehab this house. And wholetailing is kind of a combination of wholesaling and a retail flip. So it's kind of a combination of those two things. So how does it work? Well, first of all, in this strategy, you definitely need the cash to close the deal. This is not a wholesaling strategy where you assign the contract to another end buyer. You do need to actually close the deal yourself with cash, and it's not a deal where hard money really makes sense. The profit margins typically aren't great unless you have a huge spread on the deal. The profit margins usually aren't there. It makes more sense to do it if you have cash to close. So don't use hard money for this. You do it if you have cash to close. It often works on cheaper houses, and you can still make good money on it. But what it is you do a little bit of minor rehab, and then you sell it to another investor or a handy buyer as a fixer-upper. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about how this works and how you can do it. So why does it work? And this is a question that my students typically ask me because they don't really understand. They understand wholesaling, they understand fix and flip. Well, this is really a combination of those two strategies. So basically what it is you get a house that's in really bad shape. This is not, a house that's livable typically. And you want to do a little bit of cleanup on the house, but you don't do it all the way. So the number one repair or strategy that you use on a prehab house is junk removal. A lot of times when you get deals, you come across deals, whether they be probate or foreclosure or whatever. You enter a house and there's junk everywhere. There's possessions. You need a dumpster to get rid of everything. And a lot of times these are houses that actually aren't in terrible shape, but they just have junk everywhere. And you get a dumpster for $400 and you get some really cheap labor off of Craigslist or wherever you found them. And you can clear that house for less than $1,000 all day long. And all of a sudden, once you clear this house out, it doesn't look so bad. You actually look at it and say, okay, there's some of this stuff we can salvage. I mean, that's one of the things I'm always telling my students is that, all right, you go into a house looking for things that you can salvage. And once you get the junk out of there, that is the case often. Sometimes you can even find objects in the junk that you can sell at antiques, valuable dressers, collectibles, artifacts, that sort of thing. But that's not really what we're going to talk about today. So you clear out the junk, and then you have what's left, of the house, whether it be a cosmetic rehab, maybe there's some, some structural, maybe there's some electrical, plumbing, who knows. But you kind of clear that out, so at least you can see the flooring, you can see the walls, you can see the garage. And a lot of novice investors, I find, they look at it and they just don't get overwhelmed by this, this house full of junk. But in reality, I always joke that, I smell the junk or the cat, cat smell you get in a house when it's all junky like that. That's the smell of money to me. And so I honestly think those are some of the best deals. And I think if you're wholesaling or you're wholetailing it, you're prehabbing it, this opens up your pool of buyers. If you were to sell that house as is, as an assignment, before you close on it, you'll get people that walk through it and say, or the pictures don't show very well because it's got all the junk in it. And that's something that will limit your pool of buyers. People will say, I'm not tackling this project, that looks huge. But once you get the trash out of there, it doesn't look too bad at all. It doesn't look scary at all. So other things you can do on a prehab project is you fix those things that are scary to those novice investors. There's tons of novice investors out there, and you're really trying to speak to them because that's a majority of your investors in a lot of markets. So do you have a leaky roof? Do you have, a door that is not locking correctly, so there's the property isn't secure? Do you have broken windows? Those are kind of things that, can be a little bit spooky to a novice investor. But if you can take care of them at a reasonable cost, okay, now this is something that seems more manageable to those buyers. So the idea is, you spend, a few $1,000. It can vary. It can be $500. It can be you just clearing out the place of junk and haul it off, in a trailer to a dump. But it can be anywhere from $500 to, I would say, maybe $5,000 or $10,000 at the most, and you could sell that house for a bigger profit than you would otherwise, and move on quickly to the next project. Another way to look at it is this. Let's say you have let's say you have a $40,000 rehab to make this a retail flip, and the first third and the last third. So the first 15,000 and the last 15,000 are what make the most money. Maybe the first 15,000 and the last 10,000. But it's that middle 10,000 or 15,000 that you really get no return on. People, the electrical and plumbing, it needs to be done. And if you're going all the way on a retail flip, you have to do it. But you really don't get that return unless you finish the job and do those finishes out, if you put new countertops in, flooring, paint, that sort of thing. That's that last third. It's the first third, the junk, the roof, the foundation, securing the doors and windows, clearing the lot itself. That's the kind of thing that you get an initial return on investment. That middle part of the project, there isn't much of a return. It needs to be done if you're going to finish the job, but you don't get that return. So this way, in a prehab, you're actually just doing the first third of the rehab, and then you're selling it as is. So you're not getting into that section of the rehab that doesn't give you the return on investment. And not only that, but you can move on to your next project. The quicker you can turn projects and make money, quick nickel better than the slow dime, as always, as you wholesalers know. I think that's a good strategy to go with. And then if you have a good buyers list and you can connect with even those novice investors who are now no longer scared of this project because you've cleared out the trash, you've fixed the leaky roof, you've secured the doors and windows. Now it looks like a cosmetic rehab. Maybe there's a little electrical, plumbing, whatever, but it's manageable. And I think that's a really good strategy. I'll give you an example of a house that I recently did in North Texas. I bought the house, one of the cheaper houses I've ever bought. I bought it for $7,500, and it had some bricks that were coming off the front of the house. Didn't look good. You wonder what the heck else those bricks are coming off elsewhere on the house. I was able to fix those bricks for $500. Okay, so now it looks like there's no problem at all with the bricks. I don't have buyers that are wondering whether or not there are bricks that are unstable. Okay, so I fixed that for $500. There was an illegal addition on the back of the house that was falling off. Terrible. Okay, I got a dumpster and I removed that addition. The ceiling had fallen in, and there was insulation all over the inside of the house. So I was able to clear the inside of the house, put that in the dumpster when I got the dumpster for the addition, and then I drywalled the ceiling. So now the inside, the hardwood floors show through. I spent $5,000 on this prehab. Now, it wasn't livable as is. Okay, it still needed some work. It needed some leveling, certainly needed cosmetics. But I've cleared the house of all the junk and debris. I've gotten rid of the illegal addition that made the house look much worse than it was. The hardwood floors now show through, and then I've got the bricks that are solid all the way around the house. So I spent $5,000 on this house, okay, after spending $7,500 to purchase it. And then, I have a little closing costs and carrying costs, and, so maybe I'm in it for $13,500, $14,000. And I sold it cash for $20,000. I was in and out in less than a month. Okay, so I made over $6,000. Now, if I had tried to assign that contract as is, and I had these scary features, the brick, the addition, the debris in the house, I wouldn't have made $6,000. I wouldn't have gotten, $14,000 for that as is. But I was able to close on the house at a very low price point, put a little bit of work into it, not fully rehab it. It was the classic prehab. Okay? Then I was able to sell it as a fixer-upper to a buyer who wasn't threatened or scared by what they saw. So it was a better marketing play by prehabbing it than it was by assigning it. And so I think it's a great strategy that I sell to my students and that I think that you would be wise to investigate. And so that's it for today. This is Pete Tredwell, Strike First Properties. I'm the host of In the Trenches. And thanks for watching. Catch you next time around the real estate investing market.